majority leader was of the view that if we start, we must finish. And that is what we're giving the indication to him, that then we should either start now or, we adjourn. Because we were ready to start. But we're saying that if you were not ready to start, then we should adjourn the House because we had waited for too long. And clearly, they are not ready to start and they are not even ready to conclude. We are ready for any. We were ready for any. We were ready to start, debate, and either suspend the question or even decide on the question today. We're ready for it. So the majority will be in the right place to tell you the status of the E-Levy. As far as we are concerned as a minority, our position against the E-Levy remain unchanged, despite the fact that today at an extended leadership meeting it was announced to us that government is considering a reduction of the rate from 1.75 to 1.5. They also, in fact, at that meeting it was indicated to them that then they may need to come with a new bill, because that will completely change the structure of the first bill that was presented. All these technicalities will have to be considered, even if Parliament will look at the proposal to reduce it from 1.75 to 1.5. But 1.75, 1.5, we remain opposed to it. We are determined to vote against it no matter.
I am unable to give details of discussions held so far. What I can say is that discussions so far have been positive but inconclusive. I do not want to respond to political punchlines, since same may have the potential of derailing all the positive steps we've been taking so far. I shall rely on my earlier submission and say that we are optimistic that if all things go well, we are likely to proceed by consensus. But that notwithstanding, we also concede that as a matter of principle, our friends have taken a position, be it ideological or party policy decision. And in such a situation, it becomes very difficult to build consensus. What you can achieve is to get their cooperation in disagreement. When somebody disagrees and cooperates, then it's all about nation Ghana. So we'll get somewhere. We'll get somewhere. Whether we're able to achieve consensus or we're able to respect their position, to disagree with us, but cooperate within the remit of the process. Next week, God willing, once we have life, we'll be able to determine.
The law is quite clear, and the constitution is quite clear. The standing order is quite clear on what's supposed to be done. The numbers. We know our numbers. Yes, we would take it if we have the numbers. We are not going to have another of those scenes in Parliament again. A situation where the Speaker is not around, and then we decide that, we decide a constitutional imperative that one of the deputies should sit in his stead. The two of them constitute part of our 138. Right. So obviously, if they have full force of 137, and then we are reduced by one because of the absence of Babing, would have 137 or the one sitting as the speaker. That is what has been creating all the the problem. Baliho in Parliament, all the insanity that's been breaking loose in Parliament is because of this scenario. I don't think we'll come to repeat such scenario.
So if the speaker is not there, no E-Levy?
No, there won't be a E-Levy. I'm clear in my mind. We would have...
Is that the decision of the majority?
I am telling you what I think. I haven't spoken to the leader about it, but I think he must be clear in his mind about this. If the speaker is not sitting, and we have 137, 137. How are we going to get the numbers? We're going to fight again if the guys remain in the mood that if you say that they are larger constituency, but I've told them to fight. I don't believe that. I'm clear in my mind that they advise them to oppose it as much as they could.
Right. So
You've been listening to Afenyo Marking and was it Suhini? Al-Hassan Suhini also on the E-Levy. Last night, somehow, it was interesting in Parliament. Let me introduce my guests, and they may help us with explanation as to what was happening in Parliament yet again yesterday. I guess that Dr. Stephen Amua, he's MP in Shiaiso. So we've known each other for upwards of 20 years, and I'm familiar with calling him Sticker rather than Stephen Amua. Kofi Bento, Vice President Imani Africa, is still on Zoom with us, and Godwin Eduji Kujo Tameklo is a member, legal and communications team of the National Democratic Congress. Gentlemen, thank you very much and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Right. So briefly, in a minute, Doc, can you tell us what happened in Parliament yesterday? It looks like, once again, the majority held the House hostage until sometime around 6 p.m. that you realized that things were not just going to work, and it postponed it.
I don't know.
You tell me, I'm asking.
What I know is what I'm going to say.
All right.
Even Joy FM here, I always use this terminology or phrase, and sometimes people want to make ridicule out of it. You understand asymmetric information. That even not every internal stakeholder here is privy to every relevant or irrelevant piece of information.
That's right.
So there are certain levels of communication I can't speak to them directly simply because I may not be privy to the facts. What I know is that yesterday, not necessarily the numbers, I wouldn't know, because a lot of my brothers from the other side were in the house. We were in the house. I hadn't counted. They have different levels of responsibilities, and who is in charge of bringing word to word for deliberations and for discussions and for comments and for whatever decision you want to take. And what I know is that it got to a point they had to adjourn the house. Practically, this is what I can say.
All right.
Because I'm not part of the leadership.
Yeah, but there was a time that Chief Nsabonso, the majority leader, had given an assurance that in a matter of 1 hour or so, they were waiting for something and they will get to know whether or not the bill, E-Levy bill, will be laid or will not be laid. And so the uncertainty was generated from the majority side.
You think it's the only majority that decides what to be done in-house? You are not in Parliament, but I think it's a legal process.
The majority leader, who is the leader of government business,
okay. Yeah, sure.
was supposed to ensure that the bill comes to the House. So if he doesn't come, it's government side.
Okay. No, just one, be honest, you are teaching me. I'm being very honest with you. You are teaching me. You know, I've been in Parliament not quite long ago. Some of the procedures, orders and stuff like that in government businesses, I may not have known all of them in their entirety or understand the entire.
Okay. So this meant to just be a preliminary
all that I know
inquiry.
Is that we could not. And
That's
that
right.
at the right time, officially, this whole E-Levy thing will come to pass.
That's Tuesday.
I can't be here and give definite date. So that
all right.
They will say
what's your understanding from your end, Eduji? What's your understanding from your end about what went on in the House yesterday?
I think it's pretty obvious. Once again, good morning to your viewers. It's pretty obvious that the leadership of the majority are unable to marshal the numbers required for the purposes of carrying the E-Levy through. In fact, if you look at the order paper for yesterday, the whole order paper had no E-Levy. And I was monitoring. It was very late in the evening when the issue of E-Levy came in. And I recall very well the minority leader, my very respected, distinguished senior lawyer, Haruna Idrisu, and Mutaka raised the issue that if you are putting up that bill now, we have to debate and vote on it. It's obvious that the majority do not have the numbers. And so they deliberately kept shifting, to the point that the speaker had no other option almost around 5 p.m. to even threaten that he wants to leave, among other things. So let the record be set straight.
The speaker actually left.
Yes, I saw him
on account of also announcing that he's been there waiting.
And you see the challenge that I have is that you see anytime this thing happen, the communication is tilted against the Speaker of Parliament, as though he's the one being obstructionist. But where you have the whole day, an urgent issue like E-LEVY, you're unable to present it. You wait when MPs are exhausted, then you introduce it. It is unfair, even to the Speaker. It's unfair to even your own colleague MPs. And that is why I think that the majority leader must begin to demonstrate leadership. If you don't have the numbers, if you're unable to marshal the numbers, be frank with the people of this country.
Can you say?
Interesting. Kofi, what will you say briefly, watching what happened in the House? Yes.
Respectfully, I think his comment about the majority leader is not fair. Because you cannot say you are privy to everything for you to conclude that he has to demonstrate leadership.
Because he didn't show some.
What you are saying.
All right, thank you. Yes, Kofi Bento, I was asking, watching from wherever you were, what would be your comment about the developments in Parliament yesterday? Fortunately, there was no fight.
We are all watching, and sometimes it's very interesting how people come and spin and expect that we'll believe it, assuming that we don't know what is going on. It is very clear that the only reason why this matter has not come to the floor is because the majority simply does not have the number. If they had the numbers, they will be on the floor and they'll be pushing this through. It is very clear that the E-LEVY is extremely unpopular. Extremely unpopular. Now, when you combine these two things, it is giving the NDC a lot of energy to continue to fight it. It will only take brute force for this government to pass it. And even if they do, they will pay a very high price for it.
But is it accurate to say that it's extremely unpopular? The government has begun, town hall meetings to consult with members of the public across the country. I don't know if it is over yet. They went to Takoradi, Koforidia. And if after that it was being tabled, it does suggest to me that that consultation that was spoken about is terminated. But at that town hall, you saw and heard those who attended. They are almost like unanimous. They are for it. You heard pastors and the rest of them who were clear that this is good. We need it.
Well, Samson, again, that is part of the spin that I say we are all watching. And it looks like somebody is assuming that, honestly, we are all stupid. In the first place, when this thing went bad, we came on this show, they told us that they have passed it. Samson, you remember I told you, it has not been. So they've gone back to do the so-called consultation so they can tick the box that we consulted. And in doing that, they are creating these crowds of selected people, excluding other people, as if we won't know, as if we can't tell. If they want to do proper consultation, it is very easy. You can do it. If you want honest feedback, you can get it. But nobody should spin and expect that we will sit back and then you hold a certain number of forums, you pack 32 Land Cruisers over there to pay for E-LEVY, and you come back and say, we have consulted. Other people are saying so. Joy FM did a simple poll, and it showed, stop the next 10 people you meet on the street and ask them whether they are for E-LEVY or not. So look, Samson, there's too much spin, and now the spin has gotten to the point where it is disrespect of our intelligence. If the government wants proper feedback, it can get it. In fact, there are actually alternatives to E-LEVY. There are ways to solve the problem.
Right.
What they want, to use a blunt instrument to get what they want.
I'll return to you on that. But Seduji, is the minority not being inconsiderate, not being uncompromising unnecessarily when concessions are being made? from 1.75 to 1.5, minority still says, hell no. What does the minority want?
Samson, first of all, there's nothing about being intransigent relative to this E-LEVY matter. On principle, we agree with a position canvassed by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the studios of Peace FM that it is unconscionable to tax mobile money transactions.
That's his personal
view. Please, I'm coming there. I'm coming. He makes the point that it is one of the surest medium of transfer by poor people. And we associate as a social democratic party with that position. We are not going to change that position, not now and not in the future.
Dr. Bawumia is not the president.
He is the chairman of the economic management team.
Yes, he can't.
And I do not think that you want to doubt his understanding or appreciation of economic matters. I do not think so. The MPP and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia today, as we speak, has not spoken about this E-LEVY issue to date. What does it tell you? The level of policy inconsistency, to the extent that a government puts something up, now tells you, after introducing the thing, that it is now going to do consultation. Who does that? You have introduced a bill. In fact, you wanted it passed as early as in November. There has been resistance. Then you quickly come around and say, look, you are now going to consult on it. Quite clearly, it is either you are incompetent or you take others as not being intelligent. But what is the record? The minority and the NDC have made this point clear, that we are unable to associate with the passage of the E-LEVY because it offends certain fundamental principle of taxation. One of the basic canons of taxation is the principle of fairness. Today, if E-LEVY is passed and becomes law, if you and I should go into the same shop and I have money, fiscal cash, and I pay, I do not pay this levy. But once you pay with the electronic way, you will pay. How come that the same...
discriminatory.
Completely discriminatory. And so it offends the principle of fairness in tax administration. Fundamental principle. And government spin doctors have not been able to really speak to this issue of fairness. Two, this is a government that says they are moving and digitalization, digital economy, and that they want this economy should be cash light and not cash heavy in terms of how we manage our transaction. Now, if you are going to tax people's momo, monies in their bank account, invariably, what you are basically doing is to serve as a disincentive to people to use electronic means of, transaction. So, on that principle alone, we are opposed to it. No, we have also made a point that, look, when money is in your wallet, it is as good as money under your pillow. It is savings. Nowhere on earth is savings taxed. You don't tax savings. It is not income. So, to suggest that by moving your money, even your salary, you'll pay your income tax on your salary. By the mere fact that you are moving your salary onto your wallet, your Momo wallet, you are going to pay for it. Now, when you transfer that money to your mother in the village, you pay that tax on it. Who does this?
There's a threshold, though.
No, but the threshold is just 100. That's below 100. Any other thing immediately kicks in the issue of the taxation. But you see, we have made the point that why in God's name that this government need that tax at this crucial point? And I have listened to the Minister of Information say that the whole tax will give us about 6 billion Ghana cedis. That's $1 billion within the year. And that if we do not get the E-LEVY tax through, they may have the option of going to the IMF for a bailout. And that they do not want, and that there's a political consequence to pay for going to the IMF. We are saying that the only reason why this incompetent government is resisting the offer of going to the IMF is a very simple one. IMF is going to control the luxury, the profligate expenses by this government, and they cannot stand it. Look, I recall one of the things that the finance minister said was the passage of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. You recall?
That's right.
And that the passage of that law was going to keep government finances in check. What has happened?
Not only the finance minister, almost everybody in government.
Absolutely. As we speak today, the Fiscal Responsibility Act has been jettisoned under the rubrics of COVID. But we know that the expenses that we've done with COVID, you have refused a bipartisan engagement to account for the COVID expenses. So the ordinary Ghanaian out there is asking a very simple question. If you are refusing to account for what we have given to you, what is the assurance that if we give you more, you will account for it? This is a government that can look us in the face and say, in the most arrogant manner, that to disclose how much our president is using for his luxurious private jet, travels, it is national security. Who does that? We have never asked President Akufo-Addo to tell us his conversation with President Angela Merkel or whoever. All we are asking is that, as taxpayers, one of the ethos of the 1992 Constitution is the principle of transparency, probity, and accountability. So when we give you our tax money, which is not yours, of course, you have every responsibility to us to let us know how much you have expended the money. You tell us it's national security, and so we should give you more. In any case, with the greatest respect to my brother here, when this administration came to power, they quickly put before Parliament the capping and realignment law. You recall? By reason of the capping and realignment law, proceeds into road fund and among other statutory funds have been capped. Now, over 1.9 billion Ghana cedis is supposed to go to road fund. You give road fund only 800 million. The rest, you say you are using it for other things. Now today you say you need E-LEVY in order to do roads. What was the reason for the road fund? So you have not demonstrated candor in the management of our public finances.
Okay.
This morning, 30 seconds before he comes in, this morning I heard you, when you went through the Auditor General's reports, E-LEVY is supposed to give us 6 billion. The Auditor General's report for the year ending December 2020 put a figure of 12.8 billion as the total value of financial irregularities. Cash irregularity alone is 1.8 billion Ghana cedis. And you say you need Momo to give you 6 billion. You have not demonstrated any prudence in the management of the public finances of this country.
Right.
So the majority, the minority, and the NDC, we are never going to be part of this Momo.
Completely opposed.
Completely opposed. Completely opposed.
Okay. Stephen, forgive me, I almost said sticker.
No, it's okay.
You pardon me.
Is fine. I'm very fine.
Right.
At least it's all about people know I'm the one who's speaking.
Okay, right. Now, before you respond to him, I want you to listen to His Excellency the President when he started and he was excited that he was cutting taxes. Why is he not listening now? Let's listen to the President. President on the 5th of April 2017, and he says he started cutting nuisance taxes. He's taking them off. Sir Tekpe says this is the height of nuisance tax. And look at the opposition, the intensity of the opposition to this tax. Why is the president bent on having this done?
Thank you very much. My regards to our viewers this morning, and thank you for putting me on this, to me, the most prestigious platform in our country today. Something I'll just use LIFO. Last in, first out from all that you said. Haven't you also heard, or are you not aware, that the same opposition publicly saying that if we pass this bill, we'll be unpopular and that we'll lose 2024 elections? Mm-hmm. So now the opposition wants us to continue governing. You see, one thing about Ghana is I sometimes don't have too much or too many issues with my NDC brothers because they want to come to power and they will use everything, whether wrong or right, analyze things, But some of my problems I have are with the experts and the professionals in our country. The commentators who claim they are not politicians. Once the person, there's underlying interest for the government or against the government, it influences the person's statement. We are not doing Ghana any good. Something. The president said that yes, the essence of tax policy, in a way, is quite calibrative in nature, or calibration in nature. Forgive my vocabulary. You do as and when it's necessary for you to increase taxes or reduce taxes or impose new ones. Between 2014 and 2016, taxes introduced or imposed on us amounting to about 26. Go and check the budget and the NDC. In fact, 2017, taxes reduced or entirely extracted away amounting to almost 16 tax components under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is telling you that we haven't been perfect, but in terms of even net increase in taxes or decrease, this government has shown good faith with the people. In any case, there is nowhere in the world that any individual is interested in paying taxes, which will have impact on the person's disposable income. So people who are saying that Ghanaians are not happy, since when Ghanaians have shown so happy publicly that this particular tax, we are happy with it? And even who has done any practically acceptable research with sample sizes and other things to show that we can extrapolate and say that over 15 million of Ghanaians out of over 31 million, they say they don't want it. And even the fact that some Ghanaians say they don't want it doesn't mean that they are right or wrong, because maybe where the government had to do something which is normally not done, but what is happening, how many tax policies pass, we engage broader stakeholders and do education before. Don't let us keep on deceiving people. Why are we doing this? We should find out, is it timely? Do we need it? What has caused this? For about 22 months, something, Ghana, including other countries, nobody, when you say just one thing, they say everything you blame on. Generation.
You have covered levy. You also have the World Bank that has been supporting you with funding for COVID-19.
All these things are true, but have we also juxtaposed that with the obligations of the government and say that they are enough? They should come and tell us that in the area of education, in the area of health, in the area of pro-poor policies that we have all implemented, infrastructure, our interest payments getting to, if you project about 37 billion, which is as a result of cumulated debt. Even some of the debt, probably MPP collected or NDC collected, but the maturity date comes now for somebody to pay. Have we done that to juxtapose this against that? Have we analyzed our fiscal space for us to say that this is going to help us or not? All that I'm saying is that nobody wants to pay tax. But the situation we find ourselves in, do you know that even now, per the PFM Act, 2016, I think Act 981 or whatever, Section 18 stipulates that even in times such as this, our fiscal rules and policies upon consultation should be suspended. That you cannot, it's there clearly. It stated war, natural disaster, and health epidemic, which of course, like pandemic. So we should understand the fact that through no fault of this government, a lot of things have gone down the drain that have remarkably, you cannot say 100% everything. So if we are analyzing this and talking about alternatives, we should understand the fact that we should be able to provide concrete and comprehensive work that are practically feasible and timely. That with this, we can solve our problems. But we don't make, look, here's the case that university lecturers, respectfully, are driving home for new concessions. That will put burdens on already congested budget pairs. I agree with them that they should be given what they deserve. My only challenge is the time, because they were being paid practically, but they were not practically getting the full stream of their work. And not only them, other public service, they were even at home. So we have a matrix of factors that...
No, as for universities, because of the use of Zoom and other, virtual platforms, they were working.
I agree.
They were working and they were getting paid for working.
And they were working, no, but ask yourself, that somebody who's driving his car every day to work and back, are we going to spend the same thing? Even in terms of effectiveness, students having time to ask questions. Do you give an assignment and marking them? I'm not saying they are not working. I'm not saying what they are demanding is not due them. I agree. Okay. But I'm saying that the same government for about 22 months has been going through making expenditures that probably we are not deriving the needed productivity, leading to even the low growth of our economy, which you cannot do anything about. 2, this country as a whole, our effective tax rate has been negative, whether in DCMPP, whether COVID or no COVID. And that is subtracting your transfers to the households in terms of what government outlay from our taxes over total revenue. 3, within the sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana is one of the weakest countries in terms of what we generate as revenue. 4, our revenue generation as a percentage of our GDP has not been nowhere close to the benchmark within the developing economies and the developed economy. We cannot discuss issues out of arbitrariness and propaganda and where one's interest is. But let us be holistic with this issue. NDC understand them because they want to come to power. But the so-called experts should provide needed relevant pieces of information out of well-collected research data points so that we can support them. Something. Let's face the facts. Impression being created wrongly, just as my brother here just said, incompetent government, managing economy this. Why can't Ghanaians, with all the experts, be honest? I'm not saying they are not honest. They are great people. They are even better than me. But that's my also proposition. That they should, rather than sample all the performance parameters, okay, what Akufo-Addo's government took over in the area of the economy, and say that Akufo-Addo government, interest rate was 10, now it's 20. 2, treasury bills rate this, it was that, now this. 4, inflation rate was this, now this. 3, then we can know that in terms of aggregate performance, because I don't know anything at all, interest rate was way over 30%. Now you can get some around 21.
People like to look at the bigger issues.
And this one is not the bigger issue.
They are kinky and fish. They are looking at the historic borrowing. Historic borrowing you have done, that no government,
can I answer you?
Several governments put together don't match. You just mentioned 26 taxes the NDC had, and you came and removed 16. You know, I didn't ask you because I hear you guys say it, but you don't provide the evidence for it.
We don't do what?
You don't provide the evidence for it.
For the tax?
Yes.
Oh, in Parliament we did. Go to it's in their budget. This one is not hearsay.
Really?
Oh, please. In Parliament, NDC stated 11. And we stated 26 in Parliament, as a matter of fact. So it's in the hand side. You can go and check.
Now hold on, let me
answer this question, I beg you. You first said something that, Kenke, the fact that somebody, my illiterate mother at home, does not understand tetracycline and quinine, doesn't mean it's not factual, that solves health problems.
That's true.
Then you raise a second issue. What is it?
Because it's all right.
Wait,
hold on. Kofi.
No, let me answer this first.
Kofi,
I beg you.
Wait, I'm
Just
coming.
1 minute, I beg you.
Okay, go ahead.
We also talk about increment in our debt record. Something, it is on record with facts and figures that the two fraternities, leading fraternities, we are better. Between 2008 and 2016, we increased this country's debt portfolio over 1,000%. From 9.2.
I'm not talking about percentages.
So what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the actual.
We are talking increment, what we have added, because they are cumulative. Between 2012 to 2016, they increased it over 240%.
But what I said is
there was no
disputable. It's not. It cannot be controverted.
No. I'm a finance person.
Yes, I know.
I'm giving you financial.
Look, you have a PhD in this area, and I won't try to contest you.
And two, the timings are different because COVID actually impacted the other arm of financing, which is revenue, and forced government to concentrate more, probably or remarkably, on debt financing.
Okay.
So any honest professor or doctor on this earth should come and explain the fact that GDP couldn't have grown when markets were slow.
Okay. Thank you.
Impairment
Kofi,
of our productivity.
Thank you.
Leading to that.
Kofi, now you were talking about alternatives. On our very first show, I hosted Bright Simmons. He took just within 15 minutes, made a presentation that looked at the whole situation and the alternatives that should be looked at. We have heard Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, former governor of the Bank of Ghana, suggest that, look, you are using E-LEVY, you are going to get 6 billion, about 7 billion. But there are other things on the table. It's not about taxes, really. It's about raising money. Dr. Duffuor says our estimates show that by adopting the same approach that Ghana's peers use to generate revenue from their extractive sector, Ghana can generate additional $4.5 billion US. $4.5 billion US from the sector each year. He explained that the money would amount to 25 billion. We're not talking 6 billion. 25 billion cedis, far more than the 6.9 billion cedis expected to be raked in from the E-LEVY in 2020. Why do you think government is bent on the E-LEVY and doesn't seem to want to listen to any other thing?
It is because the E-LEVY is the lazy man's approach. It is low-hanging fruit. It is easy money. Okay, they see a lot of liquidity in the telco sector, and they believe that we should just reach in and take some of it. Look, because of time, let me make a few statements. One, the points that Dr. Duffuor made are points that many researchers have come to. There are little differences here and there, but we are quite sure that a better readjustment of our tax system will yield far more money, especially a focus on the extractive sector. We are quite sure that a better exemptions policy will yield far more money. Another thing we are sure about is that E-LEVY will not give us the kind of money we are looking for. So it's clear to me that this is just easy money they can grab and then they can run and hope that somehow time will give us a better idea. We have a systemic tax collection problem, and that is rooted in the laziness of our leaders. Okay, somebody made a point that big houses in Laboni are not paying enough property tax. Then I asked the person, why are they not paying enough property tax? How difficult is it to find big houses in Laboni? How difficult is it to go there and buy the house and charge them the tax?
Especially now that the vice president touts and clearly true has led this digitization process to get us easy ways to find where everybody is.
Very easy ways of doing it. So the point I'm making is, if you ask why this E-LEVY, because it's easy, is the lazy man's approach. Now, the saddest part of it is this. You can read on brightsemmons.com. Our calculation shows that indeed they may end up getting lower taxes out of this. Okay, so even though it's a lazy man's approach, we know this is not about widening the tax nets. It is just about getting money. They might end up actually impacting the telcos because Momo usage may go low, and it will impact telco profit itself and end up reducing even their takes from there. So look, we need to take a better look at our tax system. The problem is that the same elites who are in charge of the tax structures and tax systems and whatever are connected to these mines and these companies, etc. Okay, so it's difficult for them to do what they need to do to improve tax outcomes.
All right.
And then we keep visiting the same thing on the same poor people. Only 2.5 million people are paying income tax. And I have made a point in different forums that we need to take a hard look at that. I don't have a problem if we scrap all of income tax and increase VAT to 25%, because we are paying 20% VAT anyway. So we need to do some hard modeling in taxation instead of doing these easy, cheap things which cannot last more than 2 years.
The finance minister says that, we need to get this done. If we don't, the country is in trouble. Let me read you his specific quote. He says, if we don't do this E-LEVY, we are just pushing ourselves in a way that would potentially end up in such a disaster. There was a warning of that because last week was a very difficult week for the country. Last week, we got downgraded by Fitch because they do not believe we could raise the revenues that we had forecasted because we were fighting about E-LEVY. So we need to moderate that because the consequences are quick.
Samson, this is the first time I remember that a government is allowing its ministers to go out and claim that they have failed. Okay? It boggles my mind that the persons in charge of our economy admitting that they failed after 5 years of managing the economy and saying that the failure is so catastrophic that if we do not give them more money, it will crash. I can't understand how that logic works. In the first place, if you have failed after record borrowing and the incomes you've made from resources and other things after 5 years, and you come and ask me for the same people to give you more money after you have failed, especially when the sources of that money will cause further havoc in other places, I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that this will have a terrible effect on the digital economy that is coming up.
Is it also your position? Is it also your position that the E-LEVY should be abandoned completely?
It should be abandoned completely, and we should understand some things. Not every problem lends itself to a quick resolution. If you've created this over 5 years, let us bite the bullet. And let me tell you how we can deal with this problem.
Just 1 minute.
You can immediately cut government expenditure. Hold on, Samson, give me 1 minute. If we are looking for money to tide us over the next year or 2 years, there are a number of things we can talk about right now. You have 110 ministers. You can cut it to 50. Nothing will change in this country. Who is funding the National Cathedral? And what is it adding to us? You absolutely can stop expensive presidential travel. You can stop driving 30 cars, 30 D8s to one function. There are many things that can be stopped. And look, we are not saying these things as just populist, rhetoric. If you want people to join you in any form of sacrifice, you must show an example.
Thank you.
You must show that you're prepared to make the same sacrifices.
Thank you very much, Kofi Bento, Vice President Imani Africa. He's also a lawyer. Thank you for joining us.
A government that promised that we are moving the economy, or we will be moving the economy from taxation to production. It is a mark of dishonest leadership. It is a mark of incompetence to now turn around and say, pay more taxes.
Thank you.
You promised that we will move the economy from taxation to production.
Stephen,
you have no moral right.
The question people ask also is this, that the basic principle of taxation is that you tax earnings.
I want to address what you say. I can't use the 1 minute to address this.
I find that this question, anytime it's posed, nobody answers it.
Exactly.
E-LEVY, how do you determine that this is earning that you have to tax?
Samson,
and if we didn't get to this opposition, would you say that you are consulting people?
Before address you, there are issues to be addressed, and I want to go to it.
Well, when your time is up.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think the gentleman that spoke, Mr. Bento, respectfully, should analyze issues integrating the time in which we are, the causes of why probably our debt to GDP is up, rather than doing one-sided discussion. It's very unfair and it's not right. we can have time to debate that. 2, Samson, I still maintain that even if the figure my brother is saying here, you do percentage increase between 2016 and now, it is about 185.945%. 4 years before, they increased our debt portfolio over 240. Go and check the figures. Ours is partly and greatly and remarkably as a result of the fact that our markets were uncontrollably sluggish and down and affected our revenue generations, especially 2019 ending and in 2020. So government had to choose other debt financing and the economy was not growing. So this thing, you cannot blame the government 100%. Then this suggestion that we should use extractive sector, yes, but it's not reliable because natural resources deplete. Anything can happen. But I'm not saying it's not good. Where I agree with Mr. Bentil is cutting down costs in some areas that do not have positive correlation to or with our GDP growth. For instance, maybe cars used by government. And such comments are accept 100%. And it is a national issue. You cannot say MPP when this is doing worse. But I agree that we should look at maybe some of the expenditures we do in our country, especially number of land cruisers we use, expenditures on them and other areas. But let me tell you, for now, the best way to go to solve this short-term need is to adopt this and pass the E-LEVY, and then we design a comprehensive and a strategic framework to solving going forward. You can only say now, if your child has convulsion, you say, oh no, let the child go through prevention.
So the economy has convulsion. The economy has convulsion.
No, and lastly, if a government presents the true nature of what is happening, it doesn't mean it's admitting his failure.
All right.
Let us then compare the economy we took over to today.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bentil should come and tell
my guests have been Godwin Edukujo Tameklo, Member Legal and Communications of the NDC, and Dr. Stephen Amwa, MP in Shire. So Kofi Bentil joined us by Zoom. And my outfit, as always, is brought by Habil's Couture. You find them at Ajiringano Gate, East Legon, and the contact is 0200 84 1988. Thank you very much. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini. We'll come your way again next week, God willing, with another edition of your most authoritative news analysis show, Newsfile.